Hi everyone, my name's Arinao Denga, and I am a graduate from the University of Venda, holding an honors degree from the Department of Agriculture in the field of animal science. So I did my research on a topic called Effects of Feed Restriction on Production Traits, and these production traits include body weight, egg number, egg weight, and egg quality. When we refer to egg quality, we're basically looking at things like including egg texture, egg cleanness, of red and white amber link, which were the two strains of layers that we used for the research that was done for a period of 21 days, which is 3 weeks. So basically, my study was based on poultry production, in this case meaning egg production. And we were looking at this sector because obviously, like many other sectors, it has been facing numerous challenges which have obviously affected its development and growth. And the primary challenge which we looked at was being the high cost of production due to the increasing cost of feed prices. So when we look at cereal grains such as maize and wheat, they constitute a major portion of poultry feed, and these directly compete with humans for their food supply. And so under these circumstances, um, production of efficient and cheaper poultry rations obviously has become very difficult, and this has resulted in high feed prices. So the best way for a farmer to achieve a good flock of layer, he or she will obviously have to develop feed and weight programs that will entitle the birds to feed efficiency and uniformity. So my research was basically involving limiting the number of hours that the birds or the hens will have access to feed, referring to an actual reduction of the amount of feed that they were given in a day. And the main goal for this control feeding was that the birds do not build up excess fat during the production, as this was going to interfere with their performance in terms of them producing eggs. So besides any minor significant changes that we might look at that feed restriction might bring about in production and air quality, the paramount importance of this was to reduce the economical indices of running a poultry farm. And one other thing that I looked at when I decided to go for feed restriction is that usually we tend to overfeed laying hens, which can lead to failure of body weight uniformity and regulation of growth rate in layer flock throughout their cycle of production. And obviously, this will result in heavy hens that will be poor layers and won't be able to lay to their full potential. And therefore, this will lead to a potential economic loss, as the farm will not be able to generate the expected profit. So my specific objectives with this research was to evaluate the effects of feed restriction on egg number, on egg weight, egg size, egg texture, shell cleanliness, the weight of the birds over time, and the mortalities of these two strains that were being used, which is the white and the red amber link. So just to give a summary of my literature review, is that feed restriction as our feeding program has gained attention in poultry farms and can be justified on the basis of its positive effects in the form of enhanced productivity, reduced costs, and reduced industry investments in all sectors of running poultry enterprises. This is accounting for breeder farms, rearing farms, and hatcheries. And the application of feed restriction can be considered as an important tool in efficiently feeding laying birds that make up a flock and therefore maintaining the required weight of the birds throughout the productive lives. Therefore, expenses and running an egg farm enterprise will be cut. This is just a summary of my literature review. So, coming to the core results of my study. During the study of the 21-day period, I got to find out that the white amberlink strain or the white amberlink layer type, they were significantly heavier in terms of body weight than the red amberlink for the period of 21 days. This meant that the white amberlink strain was much heavier during the time when they had full access to feed. Those hens that had full access to feed were much heavier than those that were subject to feed restriction within the white amberlink strain. So when it came to mortalities, there were no mortalities that were recorded during the whole experimental period for both trials, which was when they were being fed normally, having full access to feed, and when they had to skip a day of feeding. So no mortalities were recorded, and the average egg number and egg weight remained the same, meaning feed restriction had no negative impact on both strains in terms of the egg production, the egg number, and the egg weight. When it comes to egg quality, in terms of strain, we found that the white amberling produced more medium and large eggs, better than the red amberling. However, both strains did perform equally. This means that for both feeding regimes, these two strains produced equally, and they significantly produced medium to large eggs. So overall, a conclusion and a recommendation, which obviously includes some of the benefits that farmers can implement way beyond this research, which they can practically engage in on their farms to reduce feed prices. First of all, our conclusion, we found that overall the results of the skip a day feed restriction, which in this case was fasting the hens, did not significantly affect the live body weight of the hens, the egg weight, the egg texture, the shell cleanness, the egg size, or other results in any mortalities. So in terms of the strains or the type of layers, we found that the white amberlink layer type appeared to be more tolerant to the fasting or skip a day feed restriction than the red amberlink. The feed restriction did not have any adverse of productivity, but it did potentially reduce the feed costs. So I think it will be idle to just run this experiment over a longer period. Um, this would be an entire production cycle of the hens from the point of lay up until a point where productivity has declined. And therefore, this will assist in coming with a more meaningful picture and therefore to derive better conclusions. And one other thing, I think we can maybe conduct this experiment furthermore on other layers or other strains to further support the implementation of the skip a day feed restriction as a practice that can be implemented in farms, and also it being an important tool to effectively feeding the laying hens and that will make up a flock. And this will also, like I said, help maintain the required body weight of the birds or the hens throughout their productive lives, and therefore they can produce to their full potential. So in other words, our feed restriction or fasting the hens for a day, skipping a day twice for within a week for a period of 21 days did not show any decline in productivity, any changes in the body weight, or rather results in the death of any of the layers or the hens that were being used. So we can conclude that it is an effective thing that farmers can try and implement in their farms, and therefore, obviously, we can have better results as time goes on if we tend to experiment or we were to experiment this over a longer period of time. So thank you.